He's basically Frankenstein. Segue.
What? And of course, we have Big Green himself, the monster,
No, his name is Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
Well, you take on your parents' name, so why couldn't the monster be?
But he never named him that.
He
Like,
could have been Adam Frankenstein. You don't know.
he could have been alive for all we know.
If he would have, yeah, that's
Because
why he kept
they-
saying it's alive.
He was just naming his kid.
Hi, I'm alive,
Al
Frankenstein.
My name is Al Ive.
Al Ive Frankenstein.
Please to me. Can we
And like, what?
Can we please write a movie with like the Frankenstein monster where he's just like, "Hi, my name's Al. Al I Frankenstein."
It's alive.
That's a dumb name. Shut up.
He's my child. You build your own.
You build your own.
If you would like seriously think about it, 90% of Dr. Frankenstein's problems would have been avoided if he would have, just learned to love the monster.
That's true. Well, again, you see that in Bride of Frankenstein.
No, he didn't learn to love the monster.
No. But the monster is shown compassion by the blind man, and he learns and grows.
And then becomes bitter and is like, well, I need someone else, so make me a woman.
Sorry. Because they're just because Boris Karloff's like, I'm not doing another one of these unless you give me some goddamn dialogue.
So personally, for me, I think the Frankenstein specifically, like we can talk about them at the same time.
Yeah, I think so.
Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein to me are the two best Universal monster movies.
I will agree with you there. They're not my favorite, but they are.
Especially
the best.
if you they're the best made and the best handled, and if you compare the time period that they were made versus the time period where a lot of people, like when they consider the Wolfman to be the best, that's like nearly a decade after the fact.
Yeah.
So like that's a lot of evolution has happened in film since then.
No, 100%. And like Bride of Frankenstein, without a doubt, is the best sequel that any of those movies had as well.
Yes, and arguably it's better than Frankenstein.
100%. And I don't even think that's a hot take. I think that's just like universally accepted. No pun intended. So.
And so for me, again, like that's also one I really like to revisit when I actually just want to like watch a good movie. I'll throw in Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein.
100%.
Because there's cheese in it, but it's not nearly as much cheese.
Yeah, like it really does feel like they're taking the material of the novel seriously.
That's not what I said at all. Not what I mean in the slightest.
Like cheese. Like, what do you mean by cheese then?
The performances, the characters, and the story.
Okay, yeah.
Like there's some cheese to it, but not to the same extent that there is in Dracula or the Invisible Man.
Right.
And like a lot of that just comes down to, again, I think Boris Karloff's performance.
Yeah.
And, like he's barely in it, but like there's an innocence to the creature.
Yeah. Like it is a great performance. Like it's not just going around like this, but like.
But that's what it turns into after you get past Bride, when it gets into Ghost of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein,
where it's no longer Karloff.
It's Lon Chaney Jr., but that's also the direction that they went.
Yep.
Because they blinded the monster. So of course that's where when you see this walking around, that's mainly because they eventually blinded him, and he was trying to find his way around.
Which again, it's funny that becomes the iconic, like kind of walk-in image, even though it's not from that original film. You know.
Well, it's funny because that even translates to zombies too. Like it's
mummies as well, which
is
also Karloff.
But he's not like that at all in the Mummy movie.
Yeah.
Like, but it's like I don't know. I love those ones. And it gets into some really weird stuff too, and that's what I also like is like it pushes the weirdness without feeling disingenuous to it, and it's not just introducing weird things. Like there's a whole segment in Bride of Frankenstein where like the doctor that's helping build the bride just talks about homunculi and just shows a bunch of tiny people in jars.
Yep, which that's the scene where the line of like "Welcome to a world of gods and monsters" comes from.
Yeah, and
that they so famously wanted to like brand their new franchise on. But those homunculi never come back. It's just this weird.
It's
little
just
thing.
It's a way to show that he's also learned how to create life.
Yeah,
So it helps the story. It's just such a weird moment, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
In the old Frankenstein, like the tragedy of him accidentally drowning that girl.
Yeah. Well, and it's like that again. It's the Frankenstein's monster is a very like it's this tragic character that was like brought into the world, had no say in it whatsoever, and was just branded a monster because he couldn't speak for himself and was just like didn't understand what was happening around him.
Afraid of fire.
And that's why Bride is such a great companion piece, because you get to see the person that he might have became had he not been labeled a monster, you know? And I think that's really cool.
Well, that's again where I really like the story, because it asks the question of so many of these movies of who is a monster and who isn't.
Yes. Yeah.
And you could argue, well, Frankenstein is that monster, or is it Dr. Frankenstein that's the monster? And it's like, I don't know. I just love it. I think it's great. Just it holds up. It makes me happy.
Absolutely.
Also, Dwight Fry.
Yes. That's the other thing, too. Like, a lot of these movies have, like, crossover actors as well. Because because the guy who plays Van Helsing also shows up in Frankenstein as well as the Mummy, right? I know for sure he's in the Mummy.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, but he's playing different characters.
Yes.
Which led to our fan theory of, like, Van Helsing taking on different, like, identities to go after different monsters.
It could work.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Dwight Fry plays his assistant, Fritz.
Mm-hmm. Not Igor.
Igor shows up in one of the sequels.
Yeah, played by Bela Lugosi.
Yep.
Because wasn't it a whole thing that like Bela Lugosi became jealous of like the fame that Karloff was getting from playing Frankenstein?
I have to actually look into that more, because like I know that's a joke that the movie makes the movie Ed Wood makes.
Yeah, which
but
like that movie doesn't. It's not 100% a biopic by any means.
It is not a biopic remotely.
Yeah. So, like,
in fact, because that's Bela Lugosi, right? Who's in it?
Well, no, it's
no, like the character.
Yeah, Bela Lugosi is a character in the movie.
His estate had some major issues with that movie.
I would not be shocked by that at all.
Massive, like his family was like, yeah, this is kind of disrespectful.
Well, considering they like, don't they portray him as like an opium addict or something like that?
I mean, like, yeah, that was true, but like,
it's So what you're telling me is, but no, like it's, and like that's another, again, it's another case where like you have, I always appreciate in other Frankenstein films, because again, they can't really use that original design because it was copyrighted by Universal, so it's like different interpretations of like the guy being put together. But I think I've talked to you about this before. I don't think there's been a movie. The closest I think is the Kenneth Branagh one, where he really looks like he is put together from like a bunch of different bodies, and he's kind of uneven.
They put an effort into doing that.
Yeah, because I always like the Karloff one. Again, it's what they had at the time, and like that makeup is iconic and is great, obviously. But like he doesn't necessarily look like it's like. Well, one leg's kind of shorter than the other, so he's got a bit of a walk, and like his arms are a bit off, and like I always thought it'd be really cool to see like a Frankenstein's monster that just looks like a big old mishmash and doesn't have a whole lot of symmetry.
So something cool I got to see. I don't think I ever told you this growing up. I got to go see a theater play of Frankenstein in a local. There was the Saskatchewan theater, but it was like the professional grade.
Right.
And the way they designed the sets and everything was that it looked like paper.
Mm.
And so it was just like a completely white set that was then lit specific ways.
Okay. And like it gave like different like impressionist images.
I'm trying to find pictures of it, but it's really hard to find. But it was probably one of the coolest theater experiences that I possibly could have had. And the costumes were amazing. The set was amazing. Like, it was just absolutely phenomenal.
So you're saying, unlike Saskatchewan itself, the production was not flat?
Well, I mean, it could be a little two-dimensional since it was paper.
I suppose.
But no, like, it was really great. It was really great, and I didn't feel the need to make a drive-by on anyone else's hometown because of that, so cheapers.
You've made those jokes before.
Unlike Athabasca, it wasn't a waste.
Oh, well, that is kind of true.
You started it. Why don't you make like the Athabasca
River,
the Athabasca River and run off?
Run.
Most of you don't get that joke.
Maybe I will.
And now it's a one-man show. Everyone stops watching.
But no, like, yeah. Do we want to talk at all about Young Frankenstein, or is that going to be a whole other... Is that going to turn this into a whole other thing?
I feel like that would turn us into a Mel Brooks thing. But it's actually kind of cool when you think about it. Mel Brooks has adapted both Dracula and Frankenstein.
True. Never got around to the Wolfman at all.
I don't think he needs to. I think...
Well, not now. We have Barf in...
No, but I think that the fact that he parodied those two stories is kind of... I don't know. I kind of like that. I kind of love that.
100%.
I never realized that until now.
To varying degrees of success.
Yeah, it depends on your version of success.
Absolutely.
They got made, didn't they?
No, of course. I would say like Young Frankenstein is a better movie than Dracula Dead loving it.
He got paid to make it, didn't he?
Yes, it's true.
That's more than we've got.
That's also true. But oh my god. Yeah, no, like those are like just two really good movies in my opinion.
Yeah, they're amazing. I love them. I love them all. I like that's the thing is I don't think there's a single one of these movies that like I'm not a big fan of.